In this video I'm going to show you that the Rolls Royce Ghost is depreciating at an average depreciation rate of $23,206, that this number is not too bad and that there might be a double bottom forming in the market. What's up YouTube and welcome to a new video. Now if you are new to the channel, this channel is all about depreciation analysis for various cars. Now normally I focus on sports cars and especially Porsches have been popular on the channel and perhaps a little bit too popular. That's why I thought it was a good idea to mix things up a little bit and to have a look to the cars that were requested by Raymond Blades and Daria Rubbles. And note that that also means that you can request a car simply by commenting the name of the car for which you would like to see an analysis down below in the comment section. But let's start now with the market analysis for the Rolls Royce Ghost, and to do that we will take a few steps. First, we will start by having a look to the average price points so that we get a broad understanding of the market. In step number 2 then, we will dive into the details and figure out what the depreciation numbers are for a Ghost. And in step number 3, we will use those depreciation numbers to make the forecasted prices. We continue then by comparing all of these numbers to the other cars which I've analyzed on the channel, and all the way at the end of the video I show you then what a fair purchasing price is. And if at any point during the video you think, hey, this is actually quite a cool video, please remember to give the video a thumbs up as it really helps to defeat the YouTube algorithm. Now let's start to explore the market, and we're going to do that with the price distributions appearing right over here. At the top you can see that we have the distribution for the full market, and below that one we have the distribution split by the Series 1 and the Series 2. Below that one the market is then split between the cars which have the extended wheelbase and the ones which don't, and all the way at the bottom you can see the split between the used cars for sale at dealers, and the new cars. If we start then with the full market at the top, and note that I will go rather quickly through these numbers, we can see that the average price point is $171,101 and that there are 184 cars for sale. You can also see, however, that most of the cars are priced under $200,000. If we move then a histogram down, then we can see the same market but split by generation type. You can see, for example, that the Series 2 is significantly more expensive than the Series 1, and that is of course because it is a lot newer. The Series 2 namely has an average price point of $225,088, which is $102,575 above the average price point of the Series 1. If we split the market then by wheelbase in the next distribution, then you can see that there are only 12 cars available which have the extended wheelbase. Also, you can see that they are on average cheaper than the rest of the cars in the market, because the cars which have this extended wheelbase tend to be Series 1 cars. I by the way also split the market between the black badges and the non-black badges, but there was only one car for sale which had a black badge. So it's not so interesting to have a look to that split, so let's have a look now to the last histogram, which shows a split between the used cars for sale at dealers, and the new cars. You can see first of all that the cars sold by dealers are around $30,000 more expensive than the normal used cars. Moreover, you can see that there's a huge price gap between the used cars and the new cars. In fact, the new cars are on average $225 more expensive. Now I hope that you didn't just purchase a new Ghost, because the story doesn't get any better from here. This huge gap between the new and the used cars namely already tells us something about the depreciation per year, and I should probably guess that is quite steep. How steep? That we're going to figure out with the graph appearing over here, where we have now model year on the horizontal axis and the price on the vertical axis. You can also see that each car is represented by a bubble, and that the blue solid line going through the graph represents the depreciation curve. Finally then, you can also see that there are some black axes in the graph, and these axes show the average price point for that given model year. Now if we look to the numbers, then we can see that the average depreciation per year is $23,206. You can however see that the height of this number depends very much on how old your car is. The drop from the new cars to the first year which has used cars is namely on average $105,000. Now in the last year, however, this number decreased to $6,304. And the fact that these numbers are so far apart of course means that there's a huge difference in depreciation between the Series 1 and the Series 2. So let's be smart and split the depreciation curve by generation. Then you can namely see that the depreciation, as expected, is quite low for the Series 1 and sits at $6,994. I was however a little bit surprised to see that there was not a stronger bottom in the market for these cars. Yes, of course, compared to the Series 2 it looks a lot better, but what doesn't? You can however see that the oldest cars are still priced quite a bit lower than the ones from, let's say, model year 2012 to model year 2014. And that's a little bit odd, as you normally see markets stabilizing when they reach this age. So the depreciation per year number is quite horrible. But to be honest, you perhaps expected that. So let's have a look to the depreciation per 1000 miles number and see if the story gets any better for the Ghost. And we're going to figure out what that number is with the graph over here, where you can see that we have now the mileage on the horizontal axis instead of the model year. And if I put this graph on the big screen, then you can see that the pattern is quite the same as the one we saw for the depreciation per year. Namely that the number is a lot lower for the Series 1 than that it is for the Series 2. For the Series 1, we can see that the average depreciation per 1000 miles driven is $557, and that is $4,505 for the Series 2. And that number for the Series 2 is of course predominantly pushed up by the newer cars. You can see then also that the curve for the Series 2 starts to flatten gently, and I do then also expect that over time it will follow the path of the Series 1. So now then, what do these depreciation numbers tell us then about the forecasted prices? Well, that's a little bit of a tricky question in this case, because initially it appeared to be the case that the market started to form a nice bottom. A closer inspection of this bottom, however, revealed that after this period of price stabilization, there might come a second round of depreciation. And that's of course a very tricky situation. So let's put the depreciation numbers into the forecast model and see what the results are. And those results are appearing now right over here, where you can see that in blue we still have the depreciation curve, but then in orange we have now the forecasted prices. And these forecasted prices represent the prices for a car from model year 2010, 1 year from now. You can see however that there are multiple orange bubbles, and that is because each bubble represents a forecasted price for a car with a different mileage. If we have a look then to the forecasted prices, then we can see of course that the higher mileage cars are priced the lowest, and that the lower mileage cars are priced the highest. Now if we take them all together, then we can see that the average forecasted price is $97,025, and this represents a drop of $8,258 compared to the previous year. Now at this point in the depreciation curve, this number is actually still quite high. So also here again, no good news for the Ghost. But just when it seems that all hope is lost for the Ghost, it will be saved. We're now namely going to compare the depreciation numbers of the Ghost to the other cars which I've analyzed on this channel. And the result of that might surprise you. The Ghost is namely doing pretty good. And the reason for that is that if we're going to compare different cars to each other, we need to have a look to the relative numbers instead of the absolute numbers. So let's pull up the depreciation leaderboard and have a look. You can see that we have now the different cars on the horizontal axis and the relative depreciation per year on the vertical axis. You can see all the way at the left that the Giulia QV is still leading and that the Series 2 ranks quite at the bottom of the leaderboard. But have a look to the Series 1. With a value of 5.2%, it ranks at the top end of the leaderboard and right between the V Advantage and the California. Now I didn't expect that initially, and that is also not all, because there is more. If we namely look to the same graph, but then for the relative depreciation per 1000 miles, then you can see that we have a new leader in the leaderboard. The Series 1 is namely ranking all the way at the right hand side with a rate of minus 0.41%. And this puts it just above the Cayman 981S and the Cayman 987. So what if we don't just look to the depreciation per year or the depreciation per 1000 miles driven, but to the market as a whole? That we can do with the curvature metric, and that metric shows us the extent to which the depreciation curve of a car market is already completed. And if we have a look to that leaderboard, then we can see that the depreciation curve for the Ghost has a very high completion rate of 93%. Now if all of this good news convinced you to buy a Ghost, then you definitely need to keep on watching, because I'm going to show you now what a fair purchasing price is. Before we continue however, please remember to give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, because it really helps to support the channel. Now then, the fair purchasing prices. To figure out what such a price might be, I used some math and I inputted the price, the model year and the mileage to a machine learning algorithm which determines for us if a car is following the normal market dynamics or not. And you can think of this in the following way. If a car is following the normal market dynamics, it is following quite nicely the depreciation curve of the market, and hence it's priced fairly. If it therefore doesn't follow this depreciation curve, it's either priced over the market or under the market, and hence it's not priced fair. The results of that analysis you can see in the 3D plot appearing over here. You can see that we've now indeed the model year, the mileage and the price. Each of the bubbles represents again a car, and the darker the color of the bubble, the more likely it is that that specific car has a fair purchasing price. If we have a look into the results, then we can see that the fair purchasing price is between $100,000 and $170,000, and that the cars need to have a mileage of less than 40,000 miles. Now this range is of course huge and therefore not really valuable. It does tell us, however, that the majority of the market is priced quite fairly and that the depreciation is therefore relatively stable over those years. And that you can again of course use to your advantage, as you will know more or less exactly what you will lose on the car. Now let's wrap up this video and conclude. What seemed to be a sad drama story for the Ghost actually turned out to be a thriller with a good ending. The analysis namely showed that the depreciation rates on the Ghost are actually not that different from the rates of a normal car. The absolute values are just inflated and a little bit daunting due to the high price level of the car. Now when it comes to the future of the Ghost market, I still see the values slide down slightly, but at a predictable rate. This is namely in line with the model forecast and with the curvature metric. We saw namely that this metric was 93%, and it of course always takes a lot more time for the depreciation curve to bottom out fully than that it takes to create the initial hit. And that's of course because depreciation curves are decreasing in a decreasing way. And with that we arrive at the end of this video. Now if the Ghost is not really your thing and you're more into sports cars, then I can strongly recommend to check out my analysis for the McLaren 570S and the one for the Porsche GT3. Thanks a lot for watching, and I hope to see you again next week for a new depreciation analysis.